Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Omnifactory. So in the last one we got our tier 1 to 3 circuits automated. So this is tier 3 here on the EV line, the IV line. And then we made tiers 1 and 2 here passively. We're now also passively stalking nether stars. However, there is one slight issue here, and that is, as you can see, we're at 0 nether quartz. So that's something we're going to have to address pretty soon. And I was also keeping an eye on the cryothium count. The extra addition of the thermal matter seems to have fixed it. We're now fixed at 8192 cryothium dust. And we're climbing in thermal pristines. We're at 29,000. And this is going up slowly, but it is going up. So yeah, the extra improvements to the molten cryothium seems to have worked itself out now. We also set up this extra freezer and set up for making superconducting wire. And so with this, I believe we now have enough to upgrade the conduits in our base. We're currently still using the Signalum energy conduits, which can only output 524,000 RF per side, or per connection. Whereas these superconductors will allow 134 million per side. And the conduit number we're after is 695. Let's see if we can order 695 conduits. Let's just go for an even 700. And we have enough for that, so let's order this and then begin the tedious task of clicking every single conduit. I also did add a separate processing array just for conduits. So this holds every conduit that we make in these interfaces here. So I don't suspect this will take very long. Yeah, the conduit binder is what held it up there. But yeah, all 700 conduits are now finished. So I guess, yeah, let's just start by placing some conduits. I'm going to finish this off camera, though this is going to take quite a while, I think. I have to click every single one and get stuck like this. Oh, that's so annoying. Actually, before we upgrade, let's just double check what kind of buffer we've got. So the dark blue number there, 354, what is that, billion? No, million. 354 million conduit storage. Let's see what that is when we upgrade. I suspect it's going to be more than double, but let's see. Okay, I'm just finishing up the last line here. We're just at our ore processing. Down to my last stack as well, so looks like the number I calculated was more or less correct. I was able to save a few conduits as well by optimizing a few lines. But yeah, if we look around now, we should no longer see any more Signalum wires. Let's check our conduit buffer as well. Oh, it looks like I missed one here. I hope I didn't miss anything else, but I guess we'll soon find out if something runs out of power. The most important though is that I didn't miss something on the DML. Doesn't look like I did, but you never know. Anyway, yeah, let's check our conduit buffer. So we're currently at, what, 84 billion, and what were we at before? I can't even remember. Like 300 million, something like that. Oh yeah, our reactor's running basically 100% uptime trying to fill the buffer of the conduit. I wonder how long that'll take. What are we at now? 25 billion out of 84 billion. Who needs the draconic energy ball when you have conduits? These are OP. Alright, and with that out of the way, let's now address our shortage of nether quartz, because this is going to be essential for nether stars, and we're going to need a lot more than we have. The current production of nether quartz is right here, and this is from our original MV cobble works. So we have gravel, sand, glass, and then glass electrolysis into nether quartz. And yeah, you can see how slow this is. It gives you one piece like every 10 seconds or so. And that ain't going to cut it. So let's set something up at maybe IV tier on this aluminum cable. And we'll put a multi-smelter for the glass instead. So I've got some materials here. Let's start off with 2 IV macerators. And we'll auto output this to a chest, which is going to fill with sand. And that's going to go straight into a multi-smelter input bus. For this multi-smelter, we're also going to use our shiny new superconducting wire to make coil. And this gives a 4x energy discount. And then we'll buffer that into another drawer. Let's see how fast this fills up. Oh wow, already 2,000 glass. I think that's going to be fast enough. And then we need an electrolyzer. And since we're going overkill here, why not use an LUV conveyor? Set this to import. And now, yeah. That's more like the quartz I'd like to see, the rate of quartz. And then we can output this to a drawer controller and put a storage bus on the back. And now, as you can see, our Nether Quartz is slowly going up. It's been consumed quite a bit, but we are net positive on Nether Quartz, which is a good sign. Also in this process, it takes a lot of luminescence for these luminescence blocks. Last night I beefed up the luminescence production by launching a bunch of the tier 2 microminers. Or no, I mean the tier 1s for apatite and also phosphor. So the apatite we can turn into phosphoric acid, which we need for the... Yeah, here it is here. So apatite, sulfuric acid and water gives us phosphoric acid. And that is what's making our luminescence here. And then with the phosphor, we're making that into phosphorus dust. And then I've added another chemical reactor to mix some of that phosphorus dust into more phosphoric acid, which is being sent over to produce more lumium. So as you can see, we're up to 6,500 luminescence. Wait, I think I said lumium earlier. I meant luminescence. And this reactor's still running, trying to fill the conduit buffer. What are we at now? 38 billion. There's still a ways to go before it fills the buffer up. It looks like here our bottleneck is actually sand production. So maybe let's add another couple of macerators. Maybe let's just double this to 4 IV macerators. There, are we able to keep up now? I've buffered into another chest which is just being pulled by another conveyor. And that's instantly all going into this multi-smelter. But I don't know if this is fast enough even yet. Maybe I have to add more. I think for now I'm just going to leave it at 4 macerators. And I'll upgrade it if needs be. Alright, so the next thing I'd like to start working on is the tier 6 microminer. This is going to take some Enderium plating, which we should have built up by now. Let's add a recipe for the Enderium heavy plating to be done in our compressor. We'll also request a few for the quest as well. So this now unlocks the quest for the microminer. And I've encoded this into our elite crafter and added some of the recipes we were missing. It's nothing we couldn't do, it's just we were missing some recipes for it. So now if we try to request this, I think we have everything for this. Looks good to me. Let's hit start. And while these engine cores are crafting, let's look at what the recipe requires in order to send the mission. So I think ideally we want these dragon eggs in order to be able to make the stem cells, which is used for the wetware boards. So the next tier of circuit boards for the next tier of circuits. And for this we need plutonium, which we have. Obviously the microminer, quantum flux, we've used that before, and then dragon layer data. And this we can get from pristine ender dragon matter, or there's a crafting recipe for impossible realm data as well. I think I will just use this one though, since we have the ender dragon matter anyway. Actually, you know what? Maybe I won't do that because it seems like we're not producing quite enough ender dragon pristines, as our scales have run out, and we don't have any more pristine ender dragon. So let's use the other recipe instead. And this microminer is also done the medium microverse mission projector, so we don't have to upgrade that yet. Let's set up this recipe though for the X-tone tile that we done before. So we'll once again name our block, add this to the recipe output, and then once again we'll hook up the logic with the export buses and the level emitter to clear the craft once we send the mission. And in that time it looks like our microminer itself is finished. That should be a quest. The next quest it unlocks is to get dragon eggs, which we can get from this mission. Although it mentions that we're going to want to set up tier 8 microminers and tier 7s, as they give more per microminer. It's a bit more efficient that way, but for now we have to start off with this mission from the tier 6. So let's request one of these and get our dragon eggs then. And for some reason this isn't starting. I think we may have to upgrade this to LUV, as it's only running IV right now. So let me just do that really quick. Alright, I replaced the energy input hatch with the LUV one. And it's at LUV now, but it's still not running. I have no idea why. We have inputs in here. Maybe let's just try refresh this. And we'll restart the craft with the new input bus, or energy input. Let's put those back in and we'll cancel the craft and then start again. There we go, that works now. And our dragon eggs just showed up. That should be a quest for us. So for the next step, it wants us to make this growth medium, sterilized growth medium. This is made by fluid heat in the raw version, which comes from distilled water, sugar, mincemeat, and tiny piles of salt. It's a very strange recipe, but yeah, I like it. It's a bit different to what we've been doing. So distilled water is just in a distillery. That's simple enough. Sugar, we have lots and lots of sugar cane, so we can just macerate that. This mincemeat, we have to get from either chicken or mutton. So we'll have to set up a farm for that, I think. And then tiny piles of salt we're getting from microminers. So yeah, let's just start with these one by one. I think we'll start with the salt. and also the sugar. And then we'll do the distilled water and mincemeat. So at the moment we don't actually have any salt in the item form, it's all been turned into chlorine. And that's been put into this mixer over here. So we'll have to launch a bunch more tier 1 microminers, I think. But for now we can still set up the infrastructure. So for this I'm going to use an unboxinator, which is an unpackager. It's just the IV version. And then we'll put an interface on this with a conveyor to pull in salt. And we want this on configuration 1 to turn it into tiny piles. And then we'll output that to a drawer controller. And then on the other side I think we'll have a Blendomatic to turn sugarcane into sugar. Oh, and actually this is slower than I thought it would be. But I don't know if we need that much sugar all at once. And this will be passive, so I think it'll be fine. And then we'll output these to some drawers. And then I've put a storage bus on a controller here. And then we'll have one more drawer for the tiny piles of sugar as well. Or sorry, I mean tiny piles of salt. So in fact, let's actually just send a bunch of the tier 1s. Can we make 64? It looks like we can. Yeah, why not? Let's just send 64 tier 1 microminers. That'll give us a whole lot of salt to work with. And I'll turn off the chlorine production just for now, so that I can at least set the inputs on this. And back when we were first making the tier 1s, these seemed like really, really complicated. Now that we've got all the infrastructure set up, it's like super quick to send the tier 1s. And it costs like nearly nothing now. Like pretty much all of this we have passively, like the base resources. It's really just some steel, a couple of circuits, and yeah, that's about it really. And the last of the tier 1s is just crafted, so they should now be getting sent in the microminer, and we'll see salt on our system anytime now, as soon as it goes through this ore processing. And we got the first few pieces of salt, so I'm going to insert this into the interface. Okay, so that takes care of the salt and the sugar. Let's now tackle the distilled water. So this should be fairly easy, we just need a bunch of distilleries. These are 16 seconds LV. So let's just start off with one IV for now, and then we can expand later on. We'll just use the space here. And done. Just like that, we're making distilled water. The configuration's on 0, we have an aqueous accumulator below. And then we'll auto output that to the right hand side and put a fluid storage bus on there. Okay, and that's 3 of the 4 components sorted out. Let's now tackle the mincemeat. So we have to decide which one we're going to use. We can either do raw chicken or raw mutton. And the quest mentions we can use a powered spawner, so I think that's probably the best idea to do for this. And the recipe for the spawner really doesn't look too bad. I'll drop it in our recipes and see if we can craft this. So I managed to make the spawner. Now we need to convert this to a sheep spawner. I think I'm going to pick sheep, since we can get wool from this as well. And chickens just give feathers, which I don't think will be quite as useful. Who knows if we even need wool, but let's just pick sheep anyway. But in order to start spawning sheep, we need a sheep in a soul vial. So I'm going to have to go and hunt the overworld for a bit. And you are coming with me. And now in the soul binder we have to combine the soul vial with a broken spawner. This is going to give us a sheep spawner. In the anvil then we combine the powered spawner with the broken sheep spawner, and this will give us our powered spawner. So now we have to start farming sheep, and I think I'll do it over next to our tree farm, this little space here. I'm going to set up a little area with a walled off area, and then we'll set up some sort of killing chamber. Probably just put the items into drawers, and then yeah, we'll process the mutton over by our sugar and the water over there. So I've finished up our sheep spawner here. We're just using spikes on the bottom, and then a vacuum chest to pick up the items, which get put into this drawer controller. And all of the drawers have upgrades and void upgrades there as well. And I added a sound muffler because that sound is really obnoxious. There's also an on-off switch here as well. I've just got some redstone conduit that goes up to the spawner there. And now we just have to add a macerator to pulverize our raw mutton into mincemeat. And this is now giving us mincemeat. It's actually quite a quick recipe as well, this. Now we're just going to buffer that into a drawer again. And then all of this needs to go into a mixer. You can just put this right next to our distilled water, and then use a pump for the insert. Actually, this should be a robot arm, just so it doesn't get jammed accidentally. And then we'll output this to a steel drum. And yeah, this gives us a raw growth medium, and then we need to distill this. So actually I'm going to shift this over one more, and then we'll just put a distillery next to this. Wait, I meant to say fluid heater, not distillery. I made the wrong machine again, but yeah, it's all fixed up now. I put a storage bus on this drawer again, so this has now been imported all into here to make the raw growth medium, and that's just being pumped into this fluid heater to make our sterilized growth medium. And I think that's what I wanted for the quest, right? Yeah, so we get a bucket of this. So now, the next quest is to make the stem cells, and the quest recommends having more than one chemical reactor, so I think that's what we'll do. Has to be LUV as well. And this is mixing dragon eggs with our new sterilized growth medium, and this gives us a stack per. But yeah, like I said, it's 300 seconds per recipe. And then with this, we make our wetware boards. So for a start, we're going to need a LUV chemical reactor. I don't think we've made one of these yet. But it's nothing we can't make. We have these circuits now. So I've put in the recipes for the chemical reactor. Let's order one of these. And I think now it's about time we set up our LUV line. So I'll extend this platform along and we'll start another row for LUV. Okay, so I've extended our platform along. Let's extend our power line and add some CEFs for the LUV line. And this tier of cable is signalum, which we have quite a bit of by now, so this isn't too bad. So now we need our chemical reactor to put down to combine the dragon eggs and the growth medium. And I think I'll stack this vertically, just to allow some scaling. So I'll put the first one here, and then we'll stack them up the way, just in case we need to add more. I'll just do the one for now, just to see how slow it is, because I think there's other stuff we have to set up before we really need these. And we'll output this to drawer slaves, so that we can put it all into the one drawer once we stack it. And there isn't really any need to save dragon eggs right now. We need to use them for some upgrades in the fusion crafting. But for now, I'm just going to use them all to make stem cells. So we'll add these to the interface and hook these up to AE. And yeah, now this is already running. This is very slow recipe. But we don't really have enough dragon eggs to support many more of these. Probably once we get the next tier of microminer, the tiers 7 and 8, we'll expand these chemical reactors. Alright, and while those are crafting, let's look at the next thing we want to tackle here in the quest book. So I think I'll want to jump back up to the top here where we have ZPM machine hulls. This is the next step up from LUV. The recipe for these is Naquara cables and iridium plates. And then we also have to have these polytetrafluoroethylene sheets, or we can use them as liquid in the assembler. So we're going to have to set up polytetrafluoroethylene. This is by combining oxygen and tetrafluoroethylene, which is chloroform and hydrofluoric acid. Chloroform is just methane chlorine, and hydrofluoric is fluorine hydrogen. And that is what this system is. You may have spotted this throughout this episode. I set this up last night actually, and I got a bit carried away. I was just going to start with the one thing and expand our quartz, but I ended up doing that and then just building this whole system out. So this first electrolyzer electrolyzes the black granite. We're getting this from our reactor fuel processing over here, where we blend granite. This gives us the thorium and the black granite. That is then electrolyzed to make biotite, which is electrolyzed again to make fluorine, which is in this one here. And then the fluorine is combined with the hydrogen and to make hydrofluoric acid in this chemical reactor. And this third one is combining our methane with chlorine to make chloroform. And both of those outputs go into this one to make our tetrafluoroethylene. And then that is combined with oxygen at the end here to make polytetrafluoroethylene. This electrolyzer here in these three tanks are to convert excess hydrofluoric acid into more hydrogen and chlorine, as I had like hundreds of thousands of buckets of this, or tens of thousands of buckets I think, maybe not quite hundreds of thousands, but we have a fluid level emitter on there just to keep 20 buckets stocked, and the excess goes into making chlorine and hydrogen. So yeah, that's polytetrafluoroethylene. I don't actually know if we need the sheets of this, but if so, it's easy enough just to add a fluid solidifier right here. But yeah, now that we have those, we can actually add a recipe for the ZPM machine hulls. And then once we get those, we can upgrade to the ZPM assembling machine and get the next tier of circuits to use our wetware boards from the draconic cells. So let's see if this has finished any crafts yet. I added a drawer for the output here. And yeah, this should be a quest. So let's create a recipe for the ZPM machine hulls. And we can add this to a new assembling machine for Teflon. And now let's request our ZPM machine hull. Oh, that was fast. There should be a quest as well. And now we have the machine hull. Let's try and finish off today by trying to get the assembling machine itself. We're also going to need at least 2 of these tier 8 circuits. These mainframes are quite expensive, so we're going to want to minimise the amount that we make. These require prescient crystals, which we have automated, all the SMDs, crystalline components, HPICs and indium wire. And it also requires HSSE, which we now have access to. So all of these things I believe we now should have. So let's add another recipe to our recipe holders for the assembling machine. Or the assembly line, I mean. So we can just save this and then... Wait, is this the right circuits? Yeah, that's the right one. So we'll add this to our packager and unpackager. And now let's request 2 of the crystal mainframes. While those are crafting, let's also look at the other components for the assembling machine. So these require the ZPM components, which I don't think we've made yet. So we'll have to encode some of those. This is more or less the same as the LUV ones made in the assembly line. Except instead of HSSG, it's HSSE. And there's some fine platinum wire in there. The rest of this I think we already have. So let me encode the recipes for all of these components. And then we'll try and craft these ZPM things. Okay, I added in all the HSSE component things, and we can now craft 2 robot arms at least. Let's see if we can do this. We're also going to need 2 conveyor modules, and I think that's us after these craft. This seems to be going off no problem. And the craft appears to have got stuck again. I think I might have imported this recipe wrong. There's stuff in the assembly machine, but it's not crafting, so let me figure out what's wrong here. Let's first of all cancel this, and then do a bit of debugging. It was a pretty simple fix. I realised we didn't have enough power in our assembly line. This is a ZPM recipe and our assembly line was running at LUV. So I've added an extra energy input hatch on here to double it up into a ZPM machine. So now we should be able to request our robot arms again. And now it's running. Nice. So the 2 robot arms finished. I also went ahead and requested the assembling machine. It's just finishing up on the last 2 conveyor modules. I think this is now a good time to wrap this up. Next time we'll put this assembling machine to use to make our 4th and final tier 6 circuits. And that will also unlock the ability to possibly passive the tier 5s. And our next steps is also to automate this combination crafting and get the next tier of microminer, which is the tier 7. There's still loads and loads to do, but progress has slowed down slightly as this is all sort of uncharted territory for me. I don't really know this side of the game, but we're still getting through it. So yeah, looks like it's finished. This should be a quest for us. There we are. And yeah, this also unlocks the wetware board quest to combine our draconic stem cells. Those are still being crafted over there in the chemical reactor. That's quite slow, but it is passive, so it's not really that big a deal. Let's see, we're up to 576 right now, so 9 stacks. But yeah, that's going to do it for today. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow for some more Omnifactory.